Thanks. All right, should we move on to discussion on proposed bonds? With Marcus.
Sure, there's lots of questions, so we'll jump right into it. So working with Jennie and having talked to her in preparation for this meeting, we wanted to kind of go over some of the thoughts, concerns, sizing. You know, we understand as this project's kind of gone along, it's gone from here to here to here. There's been a lot of inflation costs, a lot of sizing costs, and so we want to kind of go over, where the city may be at. Our first and foremost, we never want to put the city or anyone in a position where they're going to be in trouble long term, right? And so we want to delicately talk about this. We want to go into details. We want to see what the options are and address any questions you have pertaining to the lease revenue bonds in general, and some differences there may be between sales tax bonds that we've done prior and so on. But so having worked with Jennie, we put together some scenarios here to kind of give you an idea of a range of possibilities for the city. As a reminder, if you flip back, let's see, I believe it's just this next page back, you'll see these are the two outstanding bonds we currently have. The 2022 and the 2023 bonds that the city issued in 22 and 23, of course, but and the associated debt service with those. So the city's kind of at a point now where we're starting to increase this balance. I think a little more than at least we had originally thought was going to be in our comfort zone, right? And so we just want to make sure that any future bonds that the city looks at or plans, that they're going to be within that range of comfort, working with staff, making sure that there is going to be revenues available to make those payments moving forward. The nice thing that has been kind of to the city's benefit on the prior bonds is that we issued them at a time of low interest rate. And so while those bonds have been sitting in our escrow account, typically there's something called negative arbitrage, where you're paying more interest on your bonds than what you're making in the reinvestment, right, in your savings account. We're in a very unique time in bonding history where we're actually getting positive arbitrage. So as that bond has been sitting there, it's actually been earning more than the interest expense it's been creating. But of course, as you spend those proceeds, then that's going to go away as this project potentially continues forward. So the nice thing is that the city has been a little bit held harmless to this point, just because those bonds have been at least matching their interest earnings. So that's good, right? We like that part of it. The thoughts that we have as we've talked to Jennie is to say, okay, we need to understand, that potentially this project, so if you scroll down a little bit there, you could look at scenario 8, may have up to $10 million of additional needs to finish out. I believe there was 3 projects described: the city hall, the police department, and then 1.5 million with the finalizing the public works. Is that correct? And so combined with the prior bonds, about $9 million, and then up to $10 million of potentially new bonds needed, that would bridge the gap of the remaining projects. Well, as we've run scenarios, we've worked with a couple different financing institutions. In this case, we've reached back out to the same purchaser that purchased your prior bonds, because there are a few benefits of having that case there. You'll see that debt service comes into approximately $716,000 a year or annually over a 25-year term, which, if you add that to your existing total, so again, flipping back to your prior page, that's going to put the city roughly, we'll just kind of round up here, at about $1.75 million a year in financial obligation towards bond payments, which, as I've looked at the financials and everything else, I do know that you had a nice surplus, I believe, in fiscal year 2024, but I'm sorry, 23, I apologize, thank you, in fiscal year 23, but I even alarm bells start going off in my mind when I saw $10 million. I was like, this is stretching the city pretty thin. And again, we don't want the city just to issue bonds and, you know, we want you to be financially successful for the long term. That's our goal. And so that's when, as I talked to Jennie, said, you know, one thing we could look at is kind of a different view on this. We've kind of been letting the design team and the architects kind of telling the city, oh, it's going to be this much, it's going to be this much, and kind of letting them lead the city that way. I think it's probably important for us to say, what is our budget? And to go back to them and say, we are already at $1 million annually on the 2 bonds that we have. Looking at these scenarios, we feel comfortable with scenario X, right? And then if that's going to be on the low end, 214,000, the high end, 760, or the other, maybe we don't feel comfortable increasing it any more than we already have, right? And so we need you to tell us, what can we do with the amount of money that we have or could potentially increase by? So potentially one of those scenarios. And you need to design and build it based off these specifications. And if you can't, then potentially this is a project we need to put on hold, right? And now I'm not trying to direct the council or lead you into what your decision needs to be, but as I think through it, I think it's much more important to delay a project than to ever default on a bond. Because I can tell you, there's not been very many entities to have ever defaulted on obligations here in Utah. I think we could count them on one hand, and Brandon's been doing this longer than I have, and he should probably still count them all on one hand as well. And so it's very important that we keep you financially healthy. And if that means, so going over some of your options, as I said, one of the benefits of the purchasing entity that we used are these bonds are callable anytime. And so if the city kind of said, went to the engineer and said, you know, this is our budget, you know, we may be able to issue an additional $3-4 million to increase the total up to 12 or 13 million. That's all we can do. That's all we're kind of planning for. Take, you know, let us know what you can come up with. And if it's a project you agree with, then great, you know, obviously working with the city, making sure that's fine. But if it's something that they just say, no, you have to be at, you know, the whole 19 to make this work, then these bonds are callable anytime. And so if for whatever reason we needed to unwind one of the bonds and just say, we're just not in a position to pay to do this, you can do that without penalty. So you don't have to pay a premium or anything else. So again, I just want you to be very transparent of all of your options. Of course, as I talked to Jennie, I said the downside of this is one, the bond that was issued is going to be at a much lower interest rate than what we could issue today. So the 2023 bond and especially the 2022 bond, which I believe that's already been spent, if I'm not mistaken. Jennie, hasn't that already been spent for your, okay. So
6 million.
the 6 million. Okay, so we're focusing more on the 23 at this. And so you would be able to unwind that without penalty. But for instance, if you came back in 2 years from now and said, okay, we're ready to start this project, be aware, we don't know where the interest rates are going to be. So you could potentially have to issue a higher interest rate bond than what you had originally locked in. And two, you know, I can't predict the future, but construction costs have not been trending down. And so, you know, just as give you an example, we're working on a rather large project in southern Utah. And originally it was quoted in 2018 at about $65 million, 65, 70 million. Now we're at 105 and we're getting ready to issue the bonds today or this summer. So I don't think we're going to see as dramatic of increase as that, but you know, a $19 million 3 projects, maybe 25 in 3 or 4 or 5 years. I don't know, but just be aware. I just want you to understand that is a potential risk of delaying projects that I've seen other cities and entities that delayed in 2018, 2019, now running into. So, so let's pause there for a second to maybe take any questions, and then if you have questions on the lease revenue bond, I'm happy to answer them, but Brandon is here today, and he can go over kind of the legal mechanisms on the LBA and kind of give any comfort, or if there's any concerns there, he can go over, why we're doing it this way versus more sales tax bonds too. So, any questions from mayor, city council, staff?
I understand what you're saying and all this stuff, but my biggest concern is how we're gonna get the money.
Yeah,
I need to see those numbers, if that's not what you brought. You got the right numbers for what you need, but I need to see what it's gonna cost the city and the people living in the city.
yeah.
And that's what I need to see.
So we can go into that discussion and the council wants to kind of pause on the bond
Perfect.
information and we'll dive into some of the where we're at. Jessica's here, she can run some numbers with you, and look at anything that you might. So maybe as far as project related, and then we can dive into some of the property or the financial side of it. But to bring it up to speed of what we have done, so where are we at with the city hall and the police department? We have done the programming phase of the architectural design. So the programming phase includes the architect meeting with our team. We sent surveys out to all of the employees. We get their feedback on whether their needs are met, what they need to do their job, all of that kind of stuff. Then we send all that information to the architect, and then they start building off of that information to how many employees we have, to how many offices we need, to the other spaces that we want to offer for the public or for ourselves. And then they just build out that program. So we've completed, and this is a really good time for us to have this discussion because there are two philosophies in doing and building city projects. One is you go design the whole thing and then you get a bid, find out how much it's going to be, and then move forward with it. And we've kind of done it a little reverse. We've issued some of the bonds and then gone into the design because I wasn't comfortable spending the city's money to design it if we weren't gonna build it, if that makes sense. But we have no idea the extent of how high that window was gonna go. So I own some of that. But why we're here tonight is the programming phase is coming to the completion. And the next step is to go into the design phase, which actually we decide what material the building's made out of, what the spaces look like, what areas have windows, all of those types of things. We haven't even stepped into that yet. And why that's important is it's, as our architect likes to use, it's all lines on paper at this point. They can modify, change, downsize, upsize. So I wanted to give you a picture of where we're at. So this is the site layout that the architect has designed. The gray area here is already under construction. That's the public works building that we are building or construction. We were fairly obligated to do that part. We had sold our public works building. We needed to relocate. So this is already happening. This is where the $6 million bond is funding, along with some other funds that we set aside and allocated for the project. The total cost of the public works building is around $8 million, including architectural services and their services through the contracting phase. The pink area is what we phased off of the public works building so that we could bring it down into the cost. We did that 3 times during the public works process, was to pull the budget down into what the city could afford. The blue space here is a combined, they have it listed out as police department and city hall, but I just want to be clear, the police department phase here includes upstairs admin offices for the entire city hall. So it's not 2 separate buildings. The space here is both PD and city hall. That's what they've outlined here as city hall is the council chambers, and what we've opted because we wanted to include a community room. I think we've touched base on some of the one-on-ones on that. And then the Northview Fire. So you get a picture of what the architect did to work in the space where Northview Fire can put their property and their fire station in the city. The road structure is being covered with the 6 million bond plus other revenue to complete this section of the public works building. We've pulled out the roadway here out of the project funds. And I think that's important to understand. We are not talking about the $10 million covering this road portion. We've got the $2 million federal allocation, appropriations funds. And we've got some transportation impact money and things like that that we are setting aside for the road structure. We're trying to self-perform some work, as well to get additional grants that we anticipate. But I wanted to point out that space is not covered by what we're asking for here. For the PD and the city hall. So what does the inside look like and where can we cut, right? What can we do, or how did we get to this spot? Well, again, we were in the programming phase with the architect. We told them what all of our needs were. This is what we need for future growth. We were trying to anticipate 30 to 50 years, recognizing that this building lasted a little over 30 years. And when we outgrown it, but we were trying to anticipate what it would look like if we build on. So again, the lower section of the building, and unfortunately, it didn't have a screenshot of the upstairs, but it's the same footprint as the downstairs. The downstairs includes all of the patrol sergeants, the interview rooms, the evidence scenes, the court, the front window where city payments or court payments will be taken. There's a conference room to hold our project management meetings and our development meetings, and also the council chambers, and we included this potential community room. So those are all spaces we've identified. Could all of that change? Yes, all of that can change. I think the decision and the direction we're looking for from council is, what direction do you want us to take? Do you want us to continue down this road to Marcus's point? Do we want to set a cap on what the city, I think we have to set a cap on what the city is willing to take on as debt, and we can have the discussion on how that can come about. But these are the things that look to your direction on cutting. Do we separate the buildings? Do we have a number of options in front of us that we can do that, but. So let me see if I didn't pull up. So I did a calculation. Some of the feedback I got from council members is where do we sit now with property tax values? And I'm happy to pause and go through other revenues. So please interrupt if you want to know where we stand, what our numbers look like. Potentially, I sent out the financials for April out to you this morning, I believe, or yesterday, I can't remember. That show where we're sitting. We're about $170,000 in revenue over expenditures as of the end of April for this current fiscal year. So we're looking really good for the 2024 year. This is the property tax current with our neighboring cities. After we did the 166% 2 years ago, this is where we sit with now a city is not listed. There's not all 15 cities in the county listed here. I did throw the school district on there just so you could see where they were at, because we know they have a big tax value. We just wanted to see where their numbers were at, because we do want to be fiscally responsible. It's not realistic for us to be taxing our residents to that extent. So this is where we sit now. I did another. I didn't include your memo. This has I feel like we're all formal, but we're in a work session, so I'm trying to remind myself not to be totally formal here, but
Property tax rates, it was in the.
yes, it was in the. I have that pulled up. Let's see it. Okay, so this is the history of Harrisville's property tax rates since 2010. And so to get to this revenue, I did some rough calculations on initially the 25% property tax increase on what this year, if we opted to do that, it would bring in roughly about $250,000, or on the high end of the $200,000. And I'm sorry, I left my notes in my office, but I didn't remember those. And then if we did that, thanks, Mayor, they're just sitting right in my screen. And the So if the council opted to do something like that with a 25% property tax increase this year, it would bring in approximately $250,000 in revenue.
It was 240,000.
Thank you. Yeah, 240,000, thanks, Josie. I'm just gonna look to you for the numbers. And then if we did a subsequent one next year at 25%, it would bring in an additional on top of that 240, 300,000. 25% property tax increase this year on a home value of about $400,000 was a increase of about $85 on the taxable value of this house per year. So that's what that looks like right now.
So it'd be like, we're at 0.0015, right? And 25%, bring it up to like 0.001718.
1875.
Then the next year, we have 22 or
It
something.
would be up to 0.00234375. So if you go back to where we will sit in the county, we would be up here after next year. We would bump
That's
here.
where this is where I don't want to be. I don't want to be
It's not a competition that you could do, I agree.
no.
I wish I could give you a scenario that 30 years ago when the city hall was built, that the city council put away money and said, someday we're gonna have to replace this. All I can do is say that if we do whatever that looks like moving forward from here, that will be part of the plan that we designed for the future of Harrisville, is to be able to plan for the future, for sure. I think it's for the yeah.
And it's 25% for years.
So just, this is 2 years, it's not fully responsible for us to consider moving on beyond 2 years. I will, then that's not even a conversation.
Okay, no, I agree completely. And then it is a compound, from what I understand.
So the 2 years that I calculated out was 25% of this year's certified tax rate.
Okay, so
Twice, so it wasn't including it.
So when we say it's another $85 on a $400,000 house, what is the rate? So the total right now, right? So and then you add an additional 85 on top of what it is. We'll just,
Okay.
I
I think I'm following you there. Let's pull up a Harris 20, shall we?
So,
I'm sorry.
well, I guess that's your total tax be like 22.
400,000?
There's-
Oh,
but
that would be everything.
That's full.
Yeah, okay.
So
No, I'm just interested in there, so.
I got you.
Okay, so for public record, we will pick on someone on GeoGizmo so that it's obviously public record here. I'm just gonna, unless somebody wants to volunteer their house, I'll just pick up a link here.
You do whatever.
You want to do yours?
Yeah, okay.
And it's yeah. We're taxing it here, well, that's bad.
So I can tell you what those numbers are. Quick. Okay, so if the taxable value is 275,000, at 0.15, your property tax rate for property tax would be $412.50. If it goes up to 22.34% to do the $3,214,895, the rate goes to 0.001835. So your tax would be $504.67, which is an increase of $92.17. So then if you do another 25% the following year on 275, the rate would be 0.002294. And the tax would be $630.84. So an additional $126.17 on top of that.
Thank you. So rely on her numbers a lot more than I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. That gives you some real. I'm still looking at it here.
So additional questions you have for our team, we're trying to be here as a resource to answer any questions about the designs, the needs, the current situation. We've talked about what to do with this building. Do we change directions?
Would we consider keeping this building and separating the two, putting, not combining the police department and the.
We actually have the cost savings of putting the two together would not be, because then we have to still update this. So we would, there wouldn't be any savings by the time we build that over there and upgrade this one. There's no savings.
Press the numbers on what it takes to make this ADA compliant.
We say, Justin, what do we say? 400,000? Or per million, whatever.
We're rough guesstimate here. Just the elevator, again, because we don't have a space for an elevator, we'd have to do an addition on the building. And essentially, if you're doing an addition, you might as well add some more office space. Essentially, it's gonna end up being in the $3 million range to even to just get the elevator, it's gonna be $1 million. Then to subsequently update that. Plus, then we're having to then extend out the parking lot. You know, it snowballs on itself the minute you try to expand this building, because again, the footprint is essentially what it is.
You know, one time we mentioned that you couldn't have them together, but we are allowed to have them together.
We can have them together if they're security
Separated.
separated.
Okay.
So like,
So anything in dark blue
Yeah,
is secured area.
gotcha.
So there'll be a key card. Anybody that doesn't have access to the police department wouldn't get back, wouldn't be able to get beyond the secure area, which would remove the PCI requirements.
yeah,
Is this footprint here even feasible for all that?
the footprint of this building?
Yeah.
No.
I guess,
The long-term solution. And mind you, I'm being frank, we're putting lipstick on a pig. For anything we do here. Essentially, right now, it's costing us around $15,000 a year just in maintenance of this building. Like this year, I had to have something. Well, we had vent issues, we constantly have smells and venting problems. We've replaced camera systems. It's just, every penny we start soaking into this building is more money we're never ever gonna recoup, we're never gonna get back.
good money after bad.
Yeah, now, can we make it work for an extra year? Can we put a pause, knowing that, hey, maybe we do need to put a tax increase this year, but not at that full 25%? And say, okay, let's scale back and pause production of our second phase. It's something we can look into. But essentially, as Mike has said, as we all know, as I've sat with numerous architects, general contractors, even when we had the housing crash of 2008, it plateaued for a year, and then building prices spiked up again. And then COVID hit, and then it really spiked up. So again, a 5-year solution is we gotta build something in the next 5 years. Or I'm gonna just throw personal information and knowledge. Lafayette City was going to build their public works facility 3 years ago. But they had an architecture in phase, everything. At $9 million. They finally started construction this year, $18 million. Well, I'm not saying that's essentially what we're gonna get. But that's the realistic,
I've already seen it a little bit.
yes, 100%.
Is it, Mark, is it a trend that has been I mean, we know that the construction costs have gone and gone and gone. I mean, Weaver County just came out and said, well, sorry, the $279 million that we bonded, we're gonna tax 60 more on it because we can't finish the schools. And that was just what, 2 years ago?
It's not isolated just to Harrisville. Everyone is getting hammered right now with inflation costs. They think it's kind of leveled out a little bit, but leveled out means hopefully 3 to 5% increase a year. And that's on a good year. I think prior to that, it'd be going up 15, 20, 30%. It was COVID ruling the construction industry for a long time.
Don't.
It's not lost on us as your team that this is a really, really heavy decision for council. We appreciate your support as we've tried to begin this process and dive in and be responsible moving forward. But this is where we're at, and I wanted, the reason we moved up the timeline a little bit, because I talked about having this conversation in the fall versus now. But if it includes something that is gonna impact truth and taxation, we wanted to kind of be ahead of that, to give you that option. What I wouldn't want is for tomorrow, this point, that we won't go down the road that we have a half-built $9 million building. But that's, we're not gonna, that's irresponsible. We wouldn't just go down.
And then I will just make a comment too, just as it relates to tonight, for the parameters resolution, for the LBA and lease revenue bonds, we'll go over what that all entails, what's a lease revenue bond, what's different than the sales tax. That's not a binding decision. So if you do decide to say, hey, we're going to potentially approve this tonight, but we don't know if we're actually gonna do the truth in taxation, we don't know if we're gonna borrow more, just know that it doesn't bind you to issue bonds. It just kind of goes ahead and gets this legal process done, so that if you do decide, okay, we are gonna take scenario 5, we want it, this is what we feel comfortable with, then we can do that without having to wait another 60 days and everything else to be kind of held mercy to interest rate movement and everything else. So just want to put some clarifying, so hopefully there's not so much pressure, you don't feel so much pressure on you right now, like, oh my gosh, we have to decide everything tonight, or else we're gonna issue another, up to $10 million bond. That's not the case. You can approve this. Again, there's no fees, there's no expenses. We did have some small fees associated with just creating the LBA, but the nice thing is that's an ongoing thing for the city, so you have that convenience of having it for future use as well. But outside of that, if you decided, hey, we're actually going to pull back and we don't want to do the truth in taxation, we're not going to issue bonds this year, great. We do not have to. There's no requirement that approving the parameters tonight forces you to move forward with any type of bond issuance, just to take some of the pressure off your shoulders.
So let me ask you this question.
Yes.
For both of you. Where are we sitting to be comfortable that we can keep? Staff is important. The police department is important. I don't want to see us have to start saying, oh, well, sorry, you blew it. You're out, you're out, you're out. I want to know where's the line? Where is the line that we can still function and not put ourselves in trouble?
Well, I'll probably turn that over to Jessica, because I think she's gonna know your budget and your available revenues for debt service, at least
Yeah.
much more in depth than I would at this point. I will say this, that lease revenue bonds, when you issue them, they do not create an additional revenue source, similar like your sales tax. They're pledging revenues that you currently collect. I mean, that was the nice thing, if the GO bond would have passed, right? We would automatically have a levy that's, pays for itself until the bonds expire and so on and so forth. And so anything that you approve now on those scenarios that I've given to you, and that annual payment needs to come from existing revenues, so existing budget. So I think Jessica could probably tell you what your budget, and to say, okay, this is, if you were to add X amount of dollars additional debt, how comfortable do you feel with that? So That's all right.
That's kind of a loaded question.
I know.
You're putting me on the spot. Financially, I would hate to see the city get too far in debt. I stress, with our bond payments as they are. And it's all up to you on how much certified tax rate you want to increase. If you did the $3 million scenario, that would be 214,000, that would increase your property tax rate to 22.35%. Do I feel comfortable with that as a resident? I don't know, that's up to you. But I don't feel comfortable enough with the amount of property tax we're receiving and sales tax leveling off and kind of tanking a little bit. I don't feel comfortable issuing large amounts of debt. That answers your question. The lower the better. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want the city to get to a point where we can't afford it. We've come leaps and bounds the last couple of years from where we were. And I think we're just getting pulled out and finding our footing financially, to throw a big wrench into this by issuing more debt. Sorry if that makes sense, but from a financial standpoint, I don't feel like we can handle large amounts of debt, right? Especially with the economy.
It just sounds like if you were a bank, you're telling them that the income ratio is way too high and.
So just to clarify on that, you're saying without a truth in taxation, you would not feel comfortable issuing additional debt?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure.
But with the tax, you would be okay, that's what you're saying.
Only at the 3 million. Because that, the 3 million, so if you issue can you go back to that? Yeah. So if you issue the $3 million in additional debt, that's 214,000 in annual payments. That is increasing your certified tax rate to 22.34%. So if you were to issue, let's say scenario 3, so we need 358,094 additional revenue. You would increase their property tax rate at 37.23%.
The next year.
This year. So, yeah, if you were to do scenario 3, issue, the 5 million of additional loans.
And that's what we would need this year to be able to take care of it.
Yeah, because, well, so no. It depends on when the payments started. So, when issuance versus when the payments were made. So if you did the 214,000, if you did the 22.34% increase this year, and then did an additional next year, you could make the almost 500,000. But do I'm.
No, I think you've hit that. I was just getting ready to stand up and you kind of read my mind. You knew what I was gonna say. It's all gonna be about the timing. I think the thing is, if we issue these kind of a little bit, later in the summer, August, September type period, because we do have money already, right? We just need to be confident what direction the city council is gonna go in. As Jennie explained, we don't want, nobody, I don't want that on my conscience, you getting a $9 million building that has no roof, right? That's not even something we're gonna talk about. So the idea that was mentioned is, this would actually push that. We could structure the bonds to give you some flexibility so that you could make incremental increases by making the first debt payment into 2026, fiscal year 26, and a few other things. So we've worked with staff so that if you had to have a 37% increase or whatever that is, you could say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get the first part 14% or 15% this year, and then do the other roughly 17% or, sorry, my math's a little awful, that'd be 22% into the next year. So, but yeah, just know that we can, as long as we're not here, I think we have some ability to kind of make it so it's an easier transition into truth in taxation. But I think it all spawns around how comfortable is the city council with doing truth in taxation? Because I'll be honest with you, those levies that you showed, I would say most cities do not rely on property tax. Most of them rely on sales tax. Unfortunately, like was mentioned, sales tax taking a little bit of dip. Most cities are seeing a huge expansion in their commercial base. Harrisville's more landlocked, I would say, so you don't have a bunch of this open ground that's being developed with huge new retail coming in. So I think it's probably, it's understandable that you are relying more on your property tax, but I don't want you to think that what we're asking you is an insignificant increase. It's a significant increase, and so we just need to make sure that the city council understands what usually follows. As I'm sure you're aware, a significant increase, and it's usually a little not happy public type thing.
So if you did the two increases this year and next year, you could afford the $7 million scenario.
Which will,
At what rate? Just is there
At the 20%.
at 25%? Okay. So that's kind of bringing us back to where we started.
Yeah, the two.
And
so
then,
then you'd be, what, though?
so the
I
nine,
mean, what would that
the debt generation
No.
or the,
do? What would
we build the
Just,
building.
yeah, we build the building.
So then we would have to go back to the architect and say, like Marcus and I talked, and we flipped the conversation, right? We asked them through the programming phase to tell us what this is gonna cost, and now we go back and say, we can't afford that, where can we cut? What things can we do to pull it back in?
So we go with the two them and say, this is our budget, what can we do?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Just,
Where's my concerns? You know, we've owned a construction company for 27 years, my husband, and we never go and say, you know, we've never had somebody come in and say, this is what I want, but I have this much money, you know? So I think that's where we have to start for sure, just see what we can get for what we really have. Because, you know, we want transparency, but we're worried about the truth and taxation, and they couple them happy. But we're not about transparency about that, but I think that we need to be really careful that we don't. And I understand that it's needed, I get all that, I understand the infrastructure and all that here, but we can't continue to put that burden on our residents. Have some commercial.
So just to be clear, just so I understand, are you meaning the already issued bonds? Okay,
so Jess, can you mention that would be the 15 to the 18, the first year, second year out to the 23.
yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Grover is asking questions, but we haven't been watching. He's typing. He's typing, he's not talking.
Let's,
I don't figure you want me coughing at you, so that's why I'm typing. And you probably can't hear me very well anyhow, so I'll type.
okay, so. Have we addressed all of those and Grover? So your suggestion is to make a plan and communicate it with the public and be transparent before we implement it? And that's all part of this conversation. I mean, we can postpone and hold off for a year. There's nothing saying that we can't do that. We can continue. Where we are at with the programming and with the design is at that point where, if we're going down to the 9 million, we're gonna have to choose which building we're building, which is fine. That we can definitely ask those questions. If you wanted to come back with more information as we get farther down the line, recognizing that the architectural fee the city will be paying for, I'm good with that too. And we can revisit this at a later date. We just wanted to have this discussion to get confirmation from all council members and the direction that we need to go. And you don't have to decide in this moment as the public comes in. This is part of the bond discussion. We just wanted to have this budget. Are there any other budget questions that you like to see? Yes.
on his tax increase?
Yes, the answer to your question, Grover, is yes, it would stay in place for the duration of the bond. Absolutely.
So we can say, go ahead. In the sense of just keep moving. Because we don't have, there's nothing holding us to anything, we can just keep gathering. So here's the question though that I pose to everybody, because I've been thinking about this. If we wait. How many millions of dollars is that cost the city? Because you're gonna have to finish it sometime. That's my question. Because we have no idea. I mean, we could say, yeah, let's hold it 6 months later and it is out of sight. Or right now where we can say, she's saying, this is the line that we're gonna draw in the sand. And we're not gonna go past it. And so then we can go back and say, this is what we can do. And at least we know that we can finish at least. I mean, it'd be great to finish all the projects, but that puts us in danger as a city.
Are there any other questions for the work session portion of this, that budget related? I anticipated that we could possibly have a little time to go into some growth as we anticipate new projects coming in, new revenue sources, what the future looks like. We're obviously out of time for that for tonight. We do have a little bit of follow-up on some things, and we tried to give you some of that in our previous discussions as well. So do you have any final questions before we wrap up this work session for Jessica or Marcus or Brandon or Brody, actually?
So what you need from us tonight is, are we willing to go? Right?
Or what, yeah, if you want us to keep going in the direction we're going.
It's gonna cost us something, but it's not gonna cost us. I mean, we can,
And come back.
yeah.
Tentatively saying yes, and
And you don't have to make a decision.
right, and I'm saying, and then just being able to get all the information.
Right.
That's a reason to be like.
So I have one last question for you, Marcus. With the issuance of the lease revenue bond, maybe this is rather related to. Is it the same as the sales tax revenue up to?
Yeah, so we'll go over the parameters tonight, but it is an up to number. Currently on the bond parameters, Brandon does have 10 million in there based off our discussion. Based off this discussion, the city council, and then it'd actually be the building authority as well, but you could actually amend that and say, well, we only feel comfortable even at this point, knowing what we've discussed, we're going to approve up to 7 or up to 6 or whatever that number is, just because it sounds like in all of our minds at this point, too much, right? I mean, just, we're not gonna entertain this. We're gonna start setting a cap, but even if you say 7, you could come back, or for instance, you could say 10, and we could still internally kind of know it's 7, but based off this discussion you made. Actually, I'm gonna eat my words a little bit. Based off this discussion and the parameters, we may want to go ahead and do the 10. Because I would hate for it to come in at $7,010,000 and us just kind of be like, great type situation. I don't know. I hate to ever move the mark once we've said it, but just know, yeah, to answer your question, Jenny, it is an up to amount. So think about that as we're going through it. If you want to amend it, we currently have it at 10. The motion could be, adopting the parameters, but I'm amending the max part from 10 to 7 or to whatever as part of the time.
7 to 10 in the motion, we can still.
You will have final approval over whatever it is we end up issuing. And so you could say 10, but we all know that we have a hard cap at 7. I just wanted you to know that that is some flexibility if for some reason after this discussion you said, maybe I'm a little bit nervous, so. And again, nothing binding. If we get into August or September and the engineer or the architect comes back and just says, hey, there's no way I can do it for that price or anything that you'd like for that price, great, we won't move forward, and then we'll probably have another conversation of what to do with the prior bond to kind of make sure that that's, because there are some IRS rules that does need to be spent in a certain amount of time, but we can have that discussion another day. So,
And just one more to piggyback off of that, Marcus, I mean, that number seems so astronomical right now, and how did we get there, and how did staff let it get there, right? But we have experienced this with the public works building, where you design and you go out, and we actually contracted to have a CMGC with us through that process to try to keep our costs. There's always those costs that you don't know about, right? And particularly with these larger projects. So my philosophy was, let's find out what's case scenario. Let's see how, if we don't pull back, let's let the architect tell us what it's gonna be, because I know in my back pocket, I'm gonna go and say, tell me where I can save, because I'm not comfortable with this. So if you can follow me through that strategy, that's kind of what we utilized here, so that we didn't have to come back, and we were prepared for those things that we're not identifying as the best laid plan always goes awry a little bit in some area. We just wanted to capture that as much as possible. So the ask here isn't relinquish of our responsibility to keep this as tight as we can. That's our commitment as staff to you. I just wanted to make sure you.
And it was never my intent, because number one, construction never ever goes as planned. And government moves slowly and things have been approved when that was the budget. And so we just have to move forward, see what we can do with what we have.
I'm gonna call this meeting, if I can get a motion to adjourn, and if I can find a recess to.
Make a motion, adjourn.
Also,
Okay, motion adjourned, second. Okay. All right. Be at 7. I'm just here for you.
everyone has souls in here. Well, fine, you say that. It's like. I mean, so
Here, I see it. Go out
So, sorry. Oh, that's good.
Now, 7 o'clock. All right, you're going to start our meeting of the Harrisville City meeting.
Fair. I mean, fair. So.
All right, thank you. Welcome, council, welcome, public. We are going to have an opening pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Weiss.
Everybody stand, please. Yeah. Father, Lord, and be grateful for the time we have here in this city meeting. Ask thy spirit so we can do the things that are put before us and that we can make the right decisions. Father, we ask a special blessing this time on our officers and all the officers and first responders in the state. Be with them. Watch over them and protect them. They do so much for us and we are so thankful for them. We again are thankful for this time. Say this name in thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our consent items. Item A is approval of the meeting minutes for April 9th, 2024 as presented. Have you all had a chance to look at those? Any changes, amendments, or?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes for April 9th, 2024 as presented.
Second. Okay, I have a motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Favors? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4. It's employee recognition. We have a couple of things on our agenda that we're gonna have to skip over. Mr. Keller is stuck in Salt Lake at the moment, so he can't come, but we're gonna turn the time over to Chief Wilson. You can present this.
Jack's gonna present this. Jack's our drone coordinator, so we'll let him present this.
So this certificate's for Assistant Chief Dennis Moore. He completed all of his classroom training with the county and then went down to the airport and got his Part 107 drone pilot certification. So this allows him to pilot drones commercially for the department. And he's already been on one case of deployments with Chief Wilson where they assisted with the fire down at the storage units. So Dennis, if you want to come up and get your award. Just.
Congratulations. Pilots do we have?
I think that makes 7.
A lot of work, thank you. All right, items, let's see, number 5, business items. First is our YCC activities update. We got Issac, McOmber, and Tyra and Makela. Okay, well, come on up. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Tyra Makela.
Okay.
So Good City Council became a little bit more official, very recently. So we got our own council structure. Within that structure, we have a reminder coordinator, Malia Burke, a historian, Josie Robinson, social officer, Tori Bingham, service officer, Sadie Greenhall, treasurer, Hunter Ferguson, attendance recorder, Ellie Reed, recorder, Lily Hanson, Mayor Pro Tem Isaac, and lastly, and most importantly, Ian Greenhall is our Harrisville City Council's mayor. I can personally attest to his character and work ethic. Ian has been an amazing member of YCC in the entire time. I've been a long-standing member since the very beginning, and I've been there with him the whole time, and I can tell you that he's a really great person, and you all should be proud that he works to represent us. I can't thank you guys enough for the support in various ways that you guys have given Youth City Council. You guys have been wonderful role models and have helped all of us understand more what it's like to have a structured political system within our community. Additionally, I helped volunteer at State Kids Day located at the Newgate Mall. It was amazing to see a lot of our community come out and learn how to properly put safety measures in place for the kids within our community. Within the event, we were able to help give away over 600 free helmets. Additionally, a lot of us worked to have a smooth running event. So some of us like stamped little passports that the kids had to prove that they went around the event and saw the vendors. I personally helped to check in volunteers, train them on what they should be doing. And it was just really great to see the diversity within our community. Even though there were struggles on communication, but it was great to see that within just Youth City Council, we worked together to overcome those challenges. We used some members' abilities to speak Spanish to help communicate what the event was meant for. And it was just really inspiring to see that happen in real time. Additionally, I personally spoke at a town hall meeting at North Ogden Junior High. I was the only representative for Harrisville Youth City Councils, and I just was a part of a youth panel. So parents and junior high students came, heard a wonderful speaker, Craig Jobe, I believe is his last name, and then there was just questions that they could ask us as a Youth City Council member. I did my best to represent the community, not only as Harrisville and a Youth City Council member, but also just as a young person who grew up in Utah. So a lot of the questions revolved around substance abuse and within our youth. So kind of gave my experience and my insight there. And in return, there wasn't very many people who attended, unfortunately, but out of that group, I did get a lot of parents asking for information on how to sign up for the youth city council. Not a lot of them, unfortunately, lived in Harrisville, but I did work to help get more people within the community. Thank you for your time.
I have to tell you, I got a report on you today and they said that you did an outstanding job and it's a good representation of Harrisville, so thank you. Pictures upstairs?
They're not pulling up.
Oh, there. Do we have another youth city council? Yeah, no, that was it. Okay, thank you. Item B, Future Farmers of America presentation. We have Fremont. Come up and introduce yourself, please.
Council, we are super excited to be before you tonight. My name is Cassie Joyner, and I'm an agriculture teacher and FFA advisor at Fremont High School. We are here on behalf of the newly formed Weber Junior Livestock Association, which is the entity that puts on the Junior Livestock Show and auction at the Weber County Fair. We brought these awesome kids here. I'm gonna have them introduce themselves and share with you a little bit about their experiences showing and raising livestock with the county fair. My name is Camry Martin, and I show hogs at the county fair. Showing hogs, it's my 3rd year, and I loved it so much. It's taught me so much hard work, and I've learned so much from it. From selling my hog at the fair, I've been able to set aside money for college and my after career. Hi, I'm Rachel Daniels, and I'm this next year's president for a chapter, and I raise goats, and I work the auction for the fair, so I get to see all the hard work that these kids put towards their animals pay off every year, and it's really cool, because they spend a year learning about finances and learning how to just take care of things, and learning is amazing. So within this program, it's important to a lot of our members.
Hello, I'm Haven Hoke, and I'm also a member of the FFA. My family owns a ranch, and we raise livestock and cows every year. And it has taught me how to be responsible, not only for taking care of things, but also ensuring the life of it.
My name is Garrett Jakes. I am the Weber County's 4-H hog ambassador. I have been showing hogs for 9 years. And if you ask any 4-H kid what they've learned the most, they'll always say discipline and responsibility. When I first started, when I was about 8 years old, I didn't have a single discipline bone in my body. But after these 9 years, I could tell, and my family could tell that I can keep through it. And the Weber Junior Livestock Association is a great program. About last year, we had a split from the county for budget and money reasons, but I'm glad that we didn't just stop showing and didn't stop the auction, because it has taught me, and I know it has taught a lot of other kids about responsibility. These past couple of years, I've been blessed to be able to teach younger kids how to show sheep and how to show hogs for the fair. And it has taught me a lot of life skills about being patient and working with others to see how they work.
So as you can see, these kids are the cream of the crop. On a personal note, I grew up in Weber County. I was involved in 4-H and FFA, showed livestock for the county fair every year, and I learned a lot, made a huge impact on me, so much so that I chose a career out of it. So these kids learn a lot from the program. It's not a program that we want to see go away. When I first started teaching 9 years ago, there were 7 agriculture teachers, and now we are set to hit 17 next year. So in Weber School District. So kids want to be involved in agriculture. A lot of people think otherwise. I live out in Plant City, and it's quickly turning into the neighborhoods. But there are kids who want to be involved, whether that's on a large scale ranch or just having an animal in their backyard that they can take to the county fair and have a project that way. So we are just coming around city councils just to bring awareness to the program. We are asking you as people in leadership positions and as community influencers, just to encourage anyone you know to come out to the county fair, to sponsor, to boost these kids, to maybe even buy an animal. Because like I said, agriculture is alive and well here, and we have plenty of kids who want to be involved on this program to continue. We were very grateful for the sponsorship that we received last year from the city council. We're hoping that it is something that you guys will consider again. As a city council, and if not as a city council, like I said, just talking to people in the community, business owners, people who support agriculture so that we can keep this program going. Garrett mentioned that we split from like the county putting on the show a couple years ago, so we're now a nonprofit. So these first few years, we are heavily relying on community support, sponsorships, to be able to continue to have this event and this program held at the Weber County Fair. The economic impact of this program is huge. Kids are buying animals from local producers and spending, kids can attest, tons of money on feed and supplies and putting all that money back into the economy. Last year, we had almost 450 animals go through the auction. And it was almost $1 million moving through our accounts to pay out these kids. And many of them, including myself, I was able to pay for my college education through this money. They're buying their first vehicles and doing some really cool things with it. So it's a great program. We hope you guys will consider supporting these kids. And as you're making decisions, just as city council leaders, just keep these kids in the back of your mind. You know, there are lots of kids from Harrisville who are involved in the program. And I know that sometimes a kid may live in an area where they can't have an animal. So we have some solutions for that, but just as you're making decisions with zoning and coding and things like that, please just remember these kids and then they want to be engaged in agriculture industry. What questions do you have for me or these kids?
I just have the kids in FFA and it is a great program, so I know it's glad to see you guys here. So it's a lot of hard work. Yes, it is.
It's been a hard work with pleasure. Thank you for coming and presenting, and good luck.
Okay, thank you so much.
Moving on to item C, this is a public hearing. It's to hear the public comment for or against Harrisville Ordinance 557, which is an ordinance vacating a 20-foot wide and a 35 foot wide easement on lot 1 and 2 of the Ascension Lutheran Church Subdivision. That's why you don't. And then you let us, okay, can I have a motion to open it?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, Jennie Knight, would you please walk us through this?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, good evening, council. I have the exhibit, having a few technical difficulties this evening, so hopefully those, council member Williamson, hopefully you have the packet there. It's giving me difficulty screen sharing. So this is the exhibit for this public hearing. This is a subdivision amendment of the 2 lots in the Lutheran Church Subdivision over on Washington Boulevard. So this is to vacate the existing public utility easements on these 2 lots, which will then be re-recorded because lot 2 is being re-described to make it more buildable area for lot 2. And so the new public utility easements will be adopted through the plat dedication once the approval of the subdivision amendment is through. So this is the time to take public comments for or against this action.
Thank you. So those in the audience have probably heard you've heard the explanation for this. It's now your turn to come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes and express your opinion on this. So we'll turn the time over to you now. If I see no one approaching, then I have a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
So
Motion to second.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, discussion possible action to adopt Harrisville Ordinance 557, an ordinance vacating a 20-foot wide and 35-foot wide public utility easement on lot 1 and 2 of the Ascension Lutheran Church Subdivision. Jennie, do you have anything more to add?
Unless council has questions for staff. The, yeah, developers, engineering, spirit, or any questions you might.
All right. Thank you. Are you ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Harrisville Ordinance 557. Ordinance vacating a 20-foot wide and a 35-foot wide public utility easement on lot 1 and 2 of Ascension Lutheran Church Subdivision.
Second.
All right, got a motion. Second, so roll call, please. Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Livingston. Sorry,
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Foster.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, item E, discussion possible action to adopt ordinance 533, which is an ordinance amending the general plan map and official zoning map for certain parcels on West Harrisville. Jennie, want to lead us in this discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. So this parcel is located at approximately 736 West Harrisville Road. The proposed request is to rezone the northern portion of the parcel from agricultural to planned manufacturing.
Did you say something? Is it something?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me double check. So that I say 863.
So,
Okay, my election is 736 West Harrisville Road. Oh. So the lower portion of this parcel is already manufacturing, and this brings the northern portion into the same zoning classification as the southern portion of the parcel. So it's the neighboring parcels are open space to the north, which is the city-owned property where we are building our works building. East south is the planned manufacturing. To the east is commercial, and to the west, there's one lot that is A1 that will remain A1. It's a private home there. But there are other parcels that are manufacturing that are adjacent to this area as well. The public hearing was held at the planning commission level, and after receiving public comment and their discussion, the planning commission recommended approval of the ordinance to change this to the full parcel to manufacturing. Staff is available for questions if you have additional information.
any questions, council? You have a problem, it's me, identified. It was me, that's it. Any discussion?
But I did bring over briefly, there's any concerns that, we got some of those, the main concerns of those who came to that public hearing.
So I believe the public comments included in the packet. So actually, I should go back historically. 2 years ago, we took public comments as well when the application was first submitted to the city, and we held a public hearing on that. Most of the public concerns are related to receiving and maintaining their irrigation services because the canal runs through that property, and also the irrigation ditches that provide to downstream users. So and then there are other public comments regarding the protection of A1 agricultural zones in the community.
Have you done anything to address the ditch and the irrigation?
So as part of the city's, the city's proposed project, the city has been doing and conducting surveying and analysis on where the ditches run and the type size. And actually Justin could speak more clearly to that if you'd like details on the ditches.
Justin.
Yeah, again, this parcel, the zone It's one parcel number, but it's split zone because of the canal. Again, the one irrigation ditch that does run through this property also runs over into the city property. Again, we'll be working with Western Irrigation and the ditch users of that ditch user if we need to realign or align that ditch. As per everything in the state code and state statute, you are allowed to move a prescriptive easement as long as you don't interrupt the flow that was currently there. And again, we will be doing things to make that a better ditch with piping and things in the future. But again, we will work directly with Western Irrigation with that and those ditch users. So there's no any interruption. It's not during irrigation season, and it will hopefully mitigate the whole ditch and the chapter debris flows and things to that.
Thank you. Anything else, council?
You mentioned that one house staying here. Yeah.
Any more questions? Are you ready for a motion?
Thank you. It's Kroger, it's changing from agricultural A1 to planned manufacturing MP-1.
It's part of the same parcel, if that makes a difference. I believe the part that's changing is groups out of a 55-acre lot. And it's just making that whole parcel the same. So.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 533, an ordinance amending the general plan and official zoning map for certain parcels on West Harrisville.
Second.
All right, motion in a second. Councilmember Christensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson. Yes. Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah.
Councilmember Wilson. Yes. Is that good enough? It's printed out. Okay, thank you. Item F, discussion possible action to adopt ordinance 555, which is an ordinance approving a cluster development plan located at approximately 863 North Harrisville Road, based on application filed with the city. Jennie Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to review the staff memo that was included in your packet for this item. In December of 2021, the project management committee reviewed an application for a cluster development for property located at approximately 863 North Harrisville Road. Staff has been working with the developer over the last several years to address the floodplain requirements and develop a viable concept plan. Planning Commission held a public hearing at their May 8th, 2024 meeting to receive public comment and forwarded a positive recommendation to adopt this ordinance. The Planning Commission minutes were included in your amended packet that Jack sent out to you. The general regulations of a cluster development require the minimum 10 acres. This project is 36.93 acres. The application and ownership must be filed by all of the property owners. There were exhibits attached to the MDA that give the owners permission for the developer to act on their behalf. The planning and mitigation required. This development is bordered by our agricultural property on all sides of the post development. The planning commission did hold the public hearing on May 8th. The density, the maximum units allowed under cluster development are outlined with bonus density, which is included in Exhibit E of the development, the master development agreement. The lot area, lot width, setbacks, and lot coverage regulations are outlined. also in the master development agreement as exhibit D1. And the minimum lot sizes for this cluster development meet the zoning requirements for the smallest residential zone in Harrisville. The open space will include 12 acres dedicated to the city, which will be developed into a regional detention basin that will actually sit in the floodplain portion of the development. And the ordinance requires ownership of that to be either by the city or its designated, that will again be designated to the city, dedicated to the city through the plat. The general design and themes and design and site standards were included in exhibit C-2 of the master development agreement, and it included housing types. And just a reminder to council that these are examples of homes. These are not the exact homes that would be built in the development. The CCNRs outlined and in the development agreement as well. There were some typos that were corrected and included in the updated agreement that was sent out to council. I think I briefly went over this, but we'll review it again. The development lot size is comparable to the R110 standards in the Harrisville residential code. The service capabilities, they've received service availability letters from the services, Bonavista, Vista, Dominion Energy, Rocky Mountain Power, and fire as well. The escrow and guarantee period will be set up in accordance with the Harrisville Subdivision Ordinance, which is Title 12 of the Harrisville Municipal Code. And based on the positive recommendation from Planning Commission and to adopt this ordinance, along with the review of the project management committee and analysis of the application's compliance with a cluster development plan, staff does recommend adoption of this ordinance as long as compliance with Title 12 of the subdivision code is met and any additional staff or agency requirements that are as part of this discussion.
Thank you. Any questions?
So I'm getting questions. How can we put in a residential development in a neighborhood zone without officially changing?
So this is a master development agreement that gives the council the legislative decision to make that happen. This is being done through a master development.
Not a big cluster guy, but I feel they need to keep the city out of hot living water. Fortunately, I like our areas, like but I also understand the legal ramifications if we don't, so.
Anything else? It seemed to be a lot of opposition to it, and it's really rings on the property. And I understand the retention fund would take care of some of that, but is that going to mitigate a lot of the issue, or any insurance with the floodplain being where they are?
So this plan doesn't include any units within the floodplain itself. Water will be considered through the site design. It will have to go through subdivision approval. This is not approving the subdivision itself. This is approving, allowing the cluster development to take place on the property. So certainly the water will be mitigated through piping through the project, stormwater, Justin could speak better to that than I can.
And then it said that they were the wetlands part of the application, or what?
The developer is here and you're welcome to ask a few questions of the mayor.
Yes, go ahead, anybody's. Mr. Norman.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I couldn't hear your question.
I just.
Yeah, actually, I think you need to
No,
speak to the mic a little bit.
You are not allowed to speak, Mr. Davis.
I can't hear. I'm not told I'll be here.
All right, we'll take that into consideration, but go ahead.
I was asking about the litigation. So the wetland area is a mitigation in the notes. So.
I'm not aware of any litigation, maybe. I've been, so, the amount of wetlands that would be impacted, we design around that, keep that as small as possible. It's quite a bit less than the half acre. That is the requirement for a fee in lieu of reclamation. It's technically the title that might be, but that's the end there.
Meant to be there.
Yeah, so that's a permit filed with the state. Have the preliminary file field from that setting.
Any questions for Mr. Martin? Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Would you like Justin to report on the water?
Yes, please.
Justin?
Again, as we all know, through development, there's always different challenges. Essentially with springs and things that are kind of unknown, we can put in land drainage systems and upgrade that infrastructure. I know there's some discussion about what happens when we flood irrigate, because there is a lot of flood irrigation down there. And the natural runoff is actually through that property. Well, as per state code and state law, you're not allowed to just naturally just let it run to your neighbor's property. You have to mitigate it to your own, or get with your neighbors and create a catch ditch at the end of your property. So that will be part of the development. Again, with roadways being put in, we do our best on restricted lots. So no basements unless they do specifically go in on the developer's dime and do special geotech engineering testing to get the restrictions on those lots. Again, a lot of that, they're actually going to have to build up for the roadway and all those lots. So again, I don't think they want to go down there. Which then helps with flooding and water. Again, part of that is Dixon Creek again runs down through there. They will have to do some updating and dredging out of Dixon Creek and get a stream alteration permit to put in some pipes under the roadways that they're proposing, and definitely make that where it's been out a field with animals stepping on banks, eroding banks. We don't know the condition of that, and they'll definitely make that a better water carrier way through that area.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Are you ready to make a motion? Okay,
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance 555, ordinance approving a cluster development plan located at approximately 863 North Harrisville Road, based upon the application filed and received.
Second.
thank you. I have a motion and a second. Councilmember Fawcett. Yes, thank you. Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkerson. Yes, thumbs up. Thank you. I neglected to excuse him, he's not feeling words. Item G, discussion possible action to adopt Harrisville Resolution 24-07, a resolution authorizing the issuance of lease revenue bonds by the local authority of the Harrisville City. Marcus Keller and Brandon Johnson.
We're back. Hi, Marcus Keller with Cruise and Associates. And then we have Brandon Johnson here with Farnsworth and Johnson, acting as the city's bond counsel. I would actually turn over quite a bit of this time to Brandon to go over some of the different things with the lease revenue bond, the LBA, and kind of procedure to do that. I know we've already had a pretty in-depth discussion about the bonds, kind of strategy moving forward. So if we do need to stop and go over any more of that, I'm happy to do it. But for the time being, I'll go ahead and turn that over to Brandon and he'll get you ready for voting. If we have any questions, feel free, we can stop and go back or whatever the city needs to.
I'm happy to be here in Brandon Johnson, Barnford Johnson. We're serving as bond counsel, as Marcus mentioned. Before you get started, I just wanted to explain a little bit about what a lease revenue bond is, because the approval process is a little different. What will happen with a lease revenue bond, the city basically leases the facility that you're financing from the local building authority of the city, which is the alter ego of the city. And it's a structure that's established under Utah code and state statute, and is a very common means of financing facilities, cities, school districts, lots of different entities do it. And so what will happen is the city council will first consider adopting a bond resolution. And if you move forward with that, then you will convene as the board of trustees of the building authority. It's the same people, different positions. Adopt the bond resolution as the building authority, and then reconvene as the city council and continue on with your meeting. And just by way of introduction, the bond resolution for both bond resolutions authorize, and we discussed this a little bit prior to the work session. It authorizes, at least as of right now, the issuance of up to $10 million. And as was mentioned before, that's the maximum amount. So you can always issue less than that. And so even if you approved it as is with the 10 million, and you decided down the road that you only need 5 million, it's perfectly fine, just issue $5 million of bonds. And so you're not obligated to issue $10 million of bonds. And as Marcus mentioned, you're not even obligated to issue bonds. And so you could approve the bond resolutions tonight and 3 months down the road decide that you don't want to do it at all, the financing, or wait a year. And you can, we just ignore this and walk away, and there's no obligation to issue the bonds. And no further action needs to happen. So you're not obligating yourself at this, or the city at this point. You're just you're authorizing or making it possible to move forward with the bonds if you choose to do so. I'm happy to answer any questions related to the resolutions or the finance.
So I know you just explained this.
Yep, it's
complicated.
It is, yes, it is.
So we are discussing the resolution 2407. So if we go ahead and approve that, then we go into what can be as the board of trustees, and then we approve the local, as the board of the local building authority.
Right.
And we approve essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I know it's a little quirky, and that's how it's set out in the statute. It's, it's legally how it needs to happen, and it's, as I mentioned, it's commonly done, but yeah, even though it feels weird, that's exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any question?
So I'll just mention that's why I'm glad we have people like Brandon here to walk us through this stuff. This is right up his alley with all the legal fun nuance. It was created by lawyers, this whole LBA process. So that's right. It's definitely a unique thing. So yeah, any other questions on that? Happy to answer. Okay. And so just as a reminder, so if you want to move forward with this process, so the first thing you would do is to do the bond resolution as the city council, and then you would need a motion, assuming that passes, to move into LBA, then a motion for the next bond resolution as the LBA, and then another motion to leave the LBA to go back into city council.
Okay.
Correct. Okay.
Any questions for discussion? Okay, if not, are we ready for a motion, or do we need any more from staff? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adopt Harrisville Resolution 24-07, a resolution authorizing the issuance of lease revenue bonds, local building authority of Harrisville City. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Councilmember Weiss.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson. Yes. Councilmember Fawcett. Yes. Councilmember Christensen.
Yes.
Thank you. So according to our direction now, I need a motion to convene as the Board of Trustees of the local government authority.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, okay, that motion passes. So item number 6 is we convene as the Board of Trustees, the local building authority, and we discuss possible action to adopt Harrisville Resolution 24-08, which is authorizing the issuance of lease revenue bonds by the local building authority in Harrisville. Any more input or any more information that we need?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, it's basically the same resolution, just approved.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the Harrisville Resolution 24-08, authorizing the issuance of lease revenue bonds.
Second.
Motion and a second. Councilmember Fawcett? Yes. Oh, excuse me, Board Member Fawcett. Yes. Board Member Williamson? Yes, thumbs up. Board Member Christensen?
Yes.
Board Member Jackson?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Brendan. Then we go back. Thank you.
Right.
Now I need a motion to reconvene back as the Harrisville City.
I make a motion that we reconvene as Harrisville City Council.
Motion and a second on the paper.
Aye.
Any opposed? So thank you. Thank you for your guidance.
Perfect. No more motions, I promise. That's it. Used our allotment for today, so we'll continue to work with staff, with Jessica, with everyone to make sure that, as we've discussed, that, you know, the city, you know, is protected and that it's within the city's best interest. So we'll glad we were able to do this, so we can go ahead and get these 30-day contest period out of the way. So when we do decide, or if we do decide to move forward, then it should be a quick process. And we'll obviously make the city council aware and get feedback from you before moving forward in that direction. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both. All right, item number 7, which is our business items. Discussion possible action to adopt 2025 tentative budget. Jenny, do you want to do this? Or is it? I'm not sure.
It's either. It's either of us. So this is adopting the 2025 tentative budget that was included in your packet that we discussed earlier session. If you have additional questions for staff, or Jessica, myself, or any of the department heads, we're all here to answer any questions about any money items within the budget, any proposed projects the city has, or other things that we're trying to make happen here.
Give their guidance to you. That's time to look over those things. We're trying to put together a budget that's workable for the city and. Go ahead.
I just realized, Jessica, with the April financials, the garbage fund, how are we looking at the end of April? It's putting you on the spot there, but we're keeping a very close eye on the garbage budget.
274. 200. That's in the positive, in the whole. Yeah, $274. So.
We are getting better. It has positive cash now, but it's starting to maintain itself.
Okay. That's what we need to hear.
So just as a follow-up on that item, staff has prepared a notice that will go out in the June newsletter. We're going to give the residents a 30-day grace period. That if they want to call the city and turn in their second can before the rates increase, we'll allow them 30 days so we won't have the rates increase on the second can until July 1st. So helping us get that information out there will be super helpful as we transition to get that garbage fund maintaining its own.
That's good information. Thank you. Anything more on the budget? Are we ready for a motion? Whatever should. Yes. I got you.
I make a motion, we adopt 2025 tentative budget.
I'll see.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. It's a roll call also. Councilmember Williamson? Yes, thumbs up. Councilmember Weiss?
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yeah.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Adding upon that, item I is a discussion possible action to set the public hearing for fiscal year 2024 amended budget. Jennie?
So this is just a formal action taken by council to set a public hearing. The date would be June 11th of 2024 for a public hearing to take public input. Again, the April financials are showing a healthy balance in the general fund for this fiscal year. But as you're already aware, if there are any specific budgets that are looking like they might be deficient, we need to make modifications to those to meet our audit requirements. It doesn't mean that the city is low on capital, it just means that we did guess appropriately when we assigned the revenue and expenditures for those budgets. So this is the formal action taken by council to set a public hearing so that we can make that. That would be held on June 11th, 2024.
Make a motion to set the public hearing for fiscal year 2024 amended budget on June. What? No. Sorry.
All right.
Oh.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Item J, which is our sewer management plan. Is that you, Justin?
Again, another city formality. Every year we have to go through and do a sewer management plan that we submit to the state of Utah. We've taken that, we've made sure we're in the guidelines or the dates of when that was due. And part of that formality is bringing it to council is to give you an update and say that we've completed it. I'm sure your packet was not big enough already, and then we build a sewer management plan in there, so. If there's any questions you guys have about the sewer management plan, again, we do a very extensive clean and camera half of the city every year on all our main sewer lines. We have not had any backups due to anything in the main sewer line. Again, if something gets clogged in residence lateral and it backs up their house, that is part of their responsibility. As part of the main sewer lines, we're very good at keeping them clean, camera records of those, trying to keep up heavy maintenance and updating. We do, since we have such corrosive soils on top of corrosive chemicals coming out of the sewer, we do a lot of sewer manhole lining, so that you start to see a lot of sewer manholes if you ever pop the lid, they're bright orange. That's because of the special epoxy lining that we use. And again, part of the sewer plan and part of the little update is you'll see Highway 89 being tore up this week. And probably next month and a half, 2 months for a new sewer line going into Benville and development. So, you know, I'm finally seeing some movement forward. But again, with that, 89 is also being put by UDOT for the next 2.5 months to do research. So anyways, any questions that you have about the sewer plan or our sewer league puts that together? Jake Lucio, he's certified through the state to be a sewer operator. So we let him do it. He just had conflict tonight, so asked me if I paid for it.
All right, I would just need a motion to approve or adopt that, sorry.
Make a motion to adopt sewer management plan.
All right. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item K, discussion and possible action to adopt Harrisville Ordinance 556 and ordinance repealing the good business programs. Jen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So as we adopted the new business license fees and made adjustments to the businesses that had asset protections, we previously gave discounts to that. We removed that discount with the survey or the study that came back with that study information. We found in the municipal code, the section that coordinated with the asset protection discount. So this is repealing that section of the Harrisville Municipal Code so that it's in line with the study and the adopted business license fees that we made. We should have caught this 2 months ago when we did that, but we missed it, but we found it. So it's before you tonight.
Any questions or clarifications on that? All right, I'm ready for a motion.
Make a motion to adopt Harrisville Ordinance 556, ordinance repealing good business programs.
Second.
Motion in a second, roll call please. Councilmember Weiss,
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson. So, Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett,
Yes.
and Councilmember Christensen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. That was a pretty heavy agenda tonight. We're almost done. Thank you. Item number 8 is public comment. This is the appropriate time for anyone in the audience who wants to come and express any of your concerns. It's not even a discussion, but you can be limited to 3 minutes. Please come to the podium and introduce yourself, and the time is now yours.
Hi, I'm Marvin Farrell. Like to address the city council here. A few things that were mentioned and that I'm fairly interested in, that's the irrigation water and stormwater. And as we discuss these, excuse me, these developments in Harrisville, and there's a lot going on right now, is the stormwater. And the stormwater, if I represent also Western Irrigation Canal, there's no more stormwater to be put in Western Irrigation Canal. The other thing is that we talk about these irrigation ditches. The irrigation ditches are set up, they've been here for quite some time now, and they are perpetual easements. In order to move one of those ditches, they have to be approved by the sheriff under section 73 of the Utah Code. They can be moved, but they have to be addressed and approved and through, excuse me, an engineer with a plan. So as you look at these different, excuse me again. As you look at these different developments and as they come out, I just ask the city council to be sensitive to this and keep in mind the stormwater, where's the stormwater going? And the irrigation, be sensitive to the people here that have irrigation systems, how they're being used. And as far as the water, that Justin said, when you are watering, that's true. You need to be responsible for your water when you're watering. But there is ditches, and most ditches in this area have been set up so that they have an access. So when there's extra water or a potential emergency, there's a direction or way or a ditch for these waters to go. So you just can't cap them off because you need to do a development or run them into a pond. Those things need to be addressed. with those people that are on the ditch, along with Western Irrigation Connect. Thank you, appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Walters. I'm the property owner that's my entire length of my property is to the west of where the cluster development is gonna go, so it's gonna affect my entire property. I had a few questions. If they build that land up so that it doesn't flood, is that gonna cause anything to happen on my property and having flooding because they've chosen to build that land up on that side due to the flooding? And I just don't understand. I mean, when we moved there, it was A1. I was not aware of the master plan and that a cluster division had to be put in or there was legal liability if the city doesn't follow the master plan with the cluster. That's what I understood from listening to that there's potential for that. Because we sort of figured there's gonna be development regardless. We're not gonna get away from that. But when we moved there, we figured, okay, A1, you know, it'll be acre lots, people have their animals over there, you know, I understand we want the revenue. Then we noticed the flood issues that are out there as well, so that was concerning to me, but I just don't understand, yeah, develop it A1, you know, not so dense, because it sounded like we're getting it as dense as we can possibly make it. And then I'm watching all these future farmers of America come in here. And I'm wondering, what did they train it out for? If they don't get their families money, where do they have to go? Because everything's being bought up and everyone's going bye-bye.
All right, seeing no further movement, I'm going to close the public comment period. We're going to move into item number 9, Mayor Council follow-up. Let's do Director Tait. Are you prepared? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have anything major. We're just getting deep into mowing and trimming and taking care of the parks and deep in recreation right now, based on softball. T-Law going on, which is going great. No complaints or anything, just moving on. If you have any questions?
Director Tinsel.
Again, I gave you a little heads up on Ben Lomond. We are seeing some other developments moving forward. Hopefully we'll start a pre-construction meeting here soon on Dixon Creek off Washington Boulevard. That subdivision's finalized and approved for phase 1. So we'll be moving forward with that soon. As you can see across the highway, homes are being built. And then if you've at all drove by the 750 West property, you're starting to see more movement and more movement. Hopefully by tomorrow, we will start going vertical with the walls. For the shop and the admin building should be a little bit. Another week down the road, they still have to pour that floor, right? Again, the guys are out in full force, busy trying to keep up with maintenance of storm drain basins, of sewer lines, and roadways. We've done a few small sidewalk repair projects. We're going to continue to do that throughout the summer and address some more road projects as we get into the asphalt season now. And so we will keep you apprised of any of that. Further questions?
Thank you.
I don't have a lot for you this month either. We're getting ready to have our new employees start on the 28th of May, so we're getting all this training stuff ready and all this equipment ready. We did receive a grant from the Highway Safety Sergeant Davis wrote a grant, and we got 2 LiDAR machines, so those are here working now, but we did a grant free of charge, so they're close to about $3,000 a piece, so congratulations to her. We'll bring our new guy in front of you to be sworn in on next council, June 11th. I think that's about all we have. I think school's getting out and getting ready for the kids.
So I think the agenda speaks for itself of what staff's been up to lately. We've had quite a lot on our plates. With a lot going on. We appreciate your input and we rely on you giving us the direction that you want us to take the city. Speaking of that, it is that season for us, for me in particular, the moderating county report is due on this first. So I've been reviewing the new requirements that are in place with the current strategies that we've adopted, identifying the barriers that we're facing and putting all that together to meet our compliance. I don't anticipate hitting any snafus with as far as compliance goes, but I will let you know. I'm unable to show that the city has made progress. This is what our mission is, to show that we've made progress with our strategies. There are some new requirements this year and we're going to a couple of training to get some outline. So hopefully they'll give us good input on what that looks like as far as reporting. So we do need to maybe have a discussion on some of our instances and decide if anything like staff to work on an update to help identify ways that the city can meet those modern capacity requirements. So if you're unfamiliar with those strategies, they are on the website. Ones that we've adopted. If we're in the 3 to 5 years-ish that we're supposed to show the compliance strategies, we have to adopt new strategies moving forward. So that's pretty much. I was going to go into a little bit of that moment, but you guys have had a night, so I think we'll talk about that in the meeting. Thank you. Council, Max, you got anything? Sure. Karen? Claire? Yeah. I'm just gonna share what Kroger said. They had a wonderful senior luncheon. They had like out of Kenyatta. So there was a bunch of swingers there, but I'm hoping it was just the back. So it looks like it was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing that, even under the circumstances. I appreciate that. I don't have anything to add. I just want to thank staff. It's been a really difficult, it's been a lot of thought for doing this. They do a great job every time. And I don't know, I hope you know, it's a city that have a wonderful, our staff and how hard they've worked. And I just wanted to let you know, I appreciate it. Go ahead, Steve.
And just for council, we'll set a tender, right? The league convention will be held in Salt Lake. I recommend that we all try to attend it. It was very good. The one in St. George, and I think it would be beneficial for everyone.
It's the Labor Day, the first Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday after Labor Day.
So,
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to move on to number 10. I need a motion to adjourn.
make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second. Okay, motion and a second, all in favor. Okay, thank you for all this.